welcome to In Conversations with. I'm Gerry Andrews, the Body Mind Coach. And the In Conversations episodes are all about trying to give an insight into different types of therapists, coaches, and other practitioners, just so that we can get a better understanding and a better feel for what everybody does. And today I'm really pleased to have Zoe Fuggle here with me. And we're going to just find out a little bit more about what Zoe does. So welcome, Zoe. Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Great. Yeah, just I suppose just by way of introduction, I guess we met at Erica's breakfast meetings a few, I don't know, a few months back, I guess,
We have.
literally. And that's been a really interesting way of finding new people and just getting in touch with people in, I suppose, in what you could guess is our health and well-being world, which is quite different to some of the networking events that I've been to. I don't know if it's been the same for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think Erica Space is a great space for sort of like-minded people to connect, but I love it because it's always really chill.
Mm,
And there's never any expectation as such, and everything's welcome, which I really like. Everyone's really just, yeah, chill and understanding. And yeah, I've definitely met some great people. Yeah, it's a good
yeah.
space.
It is really so useful way, which is a rare thing, I think, just to find a different type of space, which is really good. So yeah, a good plug for Erica Marmy's Transform Within, Transform Without, I think it's called. Anyway, over to you, really. So, Zoe, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, where you are, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm Zoe. I'm from Roots OT. So I'm an occupational and nature therapist, and I specialize in mental health. So I work with people who kind of struggle to function in ways that might be expected of them. That might be because they're stressed, anxious, burnt out, neurodivergent, all the above,
Mm,
or healing from like life-changing events or surgery, conditions, that kind of thing. And I sort of assess where someone's at and gently support them to use nature to regulate their nervous system, rebuild confidence, and create daily routines that actually fit their lives and not forcing people into like boxes and systems that don't
mm,
work. So I guess the
mm.
opposite of the NHS in that sense, which is very much
Agreed.
my background before going independent in 2022.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm based where am I? I'm kind of near Hemsworth, so I'm on the Wakefield Barnsley border.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
But I work sort of all over kind of West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire. So
Right.
I have like a private kind of garden therapy space here. I've got a cabin. So
Nice.
people can either come here or I go to people in their nature.
Ah, okay. Do you work online as such, or is it more actually being in sort of directly with people?
Yeah, so I do some work online, but I much prefer people and faces and actually having
Mm,
people out in nature. I think there's definitely a time and a place for therapy in four walls.
mm.
Nature's better, if I'm honest. Like
Yeah.
it's much more relaxing, certainly for people who might be neurodivergent. There isn't
Mm,
that pressure to, like I must sit in a room and stare at you and talk to you. It's
yeah.
none of that. Like
Yeah.
nature is the backdrop. It kind of does the talking for you. For the
Mm,
most part, there's not that pressure to kind of have eye contact and all of that.
right.
Like
That can be quite
silence is welcome.
intimidating, isn't it? When you're in just directly opposite somebody face to face, that sort of confrontation can be, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, there's kind of there's none of that. It's a completely different feel and it feels more natural. It's
Mm,
sessions take many forms. It depends what people come with. So as an occupational therapist, like I very much deal in life. And that is literally like whatever you bring. So that might be, issues with your daily routine, getting up, getting dressed, making meals, going to work, fitting in your hobbies, fitting in your kids, whatever it is.
mm,
And I sort of bring that back together and kind of help people to function in the best way that, they can and make that life and system work for
mm,
them.
mm.
So yeah, like we do the doing. We don't just talk about the
Right,
thing. Like if we
right,
need to go and do the thing together, we will go and do the thing.
right.
Um,
Well, okay. That's
yeah.
interesting. So, how does this differ, would you say, to, I suppose, like you said, sort of the NHS version of things, and what is that? Because you mentioned occupational health, occupational therapy, I guess,
Yeah.
originally.
Yeah. So, I guess like my background sort of acute mental health. So like people like you or I that might have had, I hate the term, but a little bit of a breakdown,
Yeah.
and might need to go into hospital for a short period to again recover.
Mm,
Not a great word in that sense because it's very
mm,
much stick a plaster on and off you trot.
indeed.
So yeah, none of that.
Mm,
But I suppose like a lot of my work there was like assessments and can somebody live independently? Can't they? What support
right.
do they need?
Yeah.
Rather than sort of, yes, I know that this person's like they need to be able to get to the shops and they're super anxious
Yeah.
about that. They might get one session with me doing that, but the assessments and the reports were the thing that kind of took over that.
And that must have
Um,
been overwhelming as well, just given the numbers of people, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I certainly remember. Oh God, I qualified in 2008 and my first job. So I'm from London originally. My first, well, technically it was my second job, but I was like, at the time they basically wanted everybody to have 6 months experience before you applied to mental health. And I was
Mm.
like, well, I know that this is what I want to do, and how can I get 6 months experience if you won't give me a job? Anyway, so I was sort of contracting for a little bit on short
Right.
contracts, and yeah, I got onto like ward in East London, and there was 20 beds and 44 patients. You do the maths. As newly qualified, yeah, that was
Top and tail.
pretty overwhelming. So yeah, and I suppose like now, like I've got the time,
Mm,
with people, like, most sessions are an hour, but actually like if we need more than that, that's fine. Or
mm,
sometimes with some of the more in-depth nature-based work, we might do a 2 hour session,
mm,
just to sort of again like really kind of bring people down because nature's really good at resetting your nervous system. It kind of brings that soft fascination. It takes you out of your head. That sort of site that
mm.
when people say like, oh, I'll go for what's clear my head. Totally science backed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, nature's amazing for that. Trees releasing phytoncides, but again, so that's like
Mm,
hormones they release
mm,
that kind of help
mm,
relax us. But just being out and in a
mm,
different environment. Again, none of that sit in rooms and talk.
mm. So
um,
that's what you would say is the sort of essential difference between what you do and maybe what somebody might see if they either have a social services visit or somebody from the NHS, perhaps, is it?
yeah, definitely, definitely. It's much more personalized, and I can
Mm,
like literally, it's not. Well, this service can only work with these things, and I know that you need this thing, but computer says no. Like, actually, no. If
mm,
that's and quite
right.
often, like what people think that is the issue that they come with, maybe isn't what we work on. I
Rarely
think
is,
that's
is
probably,
it?
yeah, I think it's a case for a lot of like kind of well-being and sort of therapy
Yeah.
spaces, but. Definitely one thing for me, like as an example, somebody might not come specifically for nature-based work, but if they're really anxious and they need to be able to, perhaps go back to work because they've not been at work for a period, but they've got really sort of anxious and isolated. But even going to the shops feels hard. Like trees are less
Mm.
threatening than Tesco, so let's start there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes more sense.
Mm. So if it's more than just simply, right, we'll go and have a walk out in the woods or in the fields or in the garden, and we'll do some talking therapy while we're doing that. It's not just that,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah, absolutely. And again, it depends what somebody needs. Sometimes we'll do like some breathing work, some mindful
Ah, okay.
activities just to kind of, yeah, I guess like set the scene, but also, if you're meeting somebody who's already like up here, with sort of anxiety or whatever's going on in their head, like that session's not going to go well. They're not going to take in, what's happening, or even if they take it in, then maybe not going to be in a place to actually act on that. So let's just bring it back, settle everything down. And if we have to go back to basics, like that's absolutely fine. I very much meet you where you are. Nature doesn't judge and neither do I. So if we need to kind of come back to that, do that kind of nervous system work, whether that's breath work, mindfulness, bit of movement,
Mm,
um,
mm,
we can do that before we do any kind of talking, um,
mm. So
or
you're
whatever that is.
dealing with the whole person that way too, and
Yeah.
bringing in different sort of modalities, different types of work as well. Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's very much a holistic package, not just, yeah,
Mm,
your six
mm.
sessions of whatever,
Mm, well,
like,
that's the other
yeah.
thing as well, isn't it? Often people are only given 6 sessions, and you're only probably just starting by that sometimes.
That's it. Yeah. What are you going to do in six? Like, particularly, a lot of people that come to me might have had quite complex trauma,
Mm.
or, big T and little t, to be
Yeah,
honest, actually, because we
yeah.
do. I'm just thinking of a lady I work with at the moment who hasn't necessarily been through, I think maybe, maybe some birth trauma, but apart from that, like no other major traumas. But actually, there's
Mm.
so many kind of little bits because injustices kind of in the world, in her environment, her moral compass. And you
Mm.
hold on to that, you hold on to that in your body so
Yeah,
much,
yeah.
much more than we realize. And actually being out in nature's kind of given her the space to also really kind of feel into that and think about that and, put things together in a
Mm.
way that maybe she
Mm.
wouldn't have done before because it's very much like, okay, well, we've got an hour and ding, the
Yeah,
bell's gone and you haven't got to where you want.
yeah,
Whereas,
yeah,
yeah, this is much more free flowing.
yeah. Also, I
Yeah,
think, as you say, much more personable as well, because often, I think the other side of all of this, you're being assessed to go on to either be referred to somebody else
yeah,
or to be, given some form of medication, or somebody else is then having to look at your case, isn't it? So
yeah,
you as the therapist then have got to report back, and it feels very much like, as the person, you're being the subject of some sort of intervention or other.
yeah.
Whereas I think this one-to-one work, as we do it, I think really is that it is very much person-centered. It's about the needs of that person too, isn't it? Quite often.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, again, some people might come with a specific, like, I've got X budget, and then we work out what they can
Yeah,
do within that.
sure.
Other people, it's like, yeah, we'll just, carry on. And we might come to the end of the things that maybe they came with, but then other things have
Mm.
popped
Yeah,
up, or
indeed.
actually, there's something more important,
Yeah.
like, yeah, they've, I don't know, had changes of hours at work and they really need some help like navigating through that, or, there's been a
Mm.
bereavement or
Mm.
something, life
Mm.
happens, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's meeting
Absolutely.
people where they are within that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely that. And it's not occupational health as such, is it? Because quite often people you know what that's about in terms of work-related stuff.
Yeah, so no, occupational therapy and occupational health are different.
Mm.
I
What's
think
the
occupational
difference?
therapy, yeah, so occupational therapy, in a way, it's a bit of a misnomer, I think. So we often take occupation as being work, but actually
Mm.
occupation in its purest definition is the things that you do in your day.
Right.
So even like, your hobbies, it's an occupation. Yes, your
Okay.
work is an occupation, but so is your role as like a mum, a dad, whatever.
Mm. Mm.
Caregiver to your pet, whatever it is, like you're
Mm.
still performing some kind of like task-based thing
Things
with
that
that.
you're
It's
doing,
still,
really.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Like I say, I deal in life, I deal in doing. There are occupational therapists in occupational health,
Mm.
just to help confuse things a bit more. And I guess like that's also part of what I do as well. Like I do some vocational like rehabilitation stuff. So I will do like occupational health type reports. Obviously, I'm writing it as an occupational therapist, but I take into account again like the whole person with
Mhm.
that. So it's not just, quite often with these things, especially now when a lot of it's online, like if companies have got people that are off sick and they want, to sort of work out how they can come back to work, um, they'll use like a company and they'll may just get like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, like phone chat, Zoom if you're lucky with
Mhm.
a person,
Mhm.
and it's rubbish. If I'm honest, like,
Yeah.
you're chatting to somebody on the phone that you've never
Yeah.
met. They can't see you. They can't see what's happening. Whereas I will
Well,
go
they
to
can't
the
see you,
person.
right?
Yeah. Like I
Mm.
will actually meet the person face to face if, I will do online if I need to, but again, I much prefer that kind of face to face, but I don't just look at actually how your conditions are affecting your work. I'm looking at
Mm.
how that's impacting on your life, that then
Mm.
that's impacting on your work because it's not separate.
Indeed.
If you're struggling at home, that's going to have an impact on work. But equally,
Yeah.
if you're struggling at work, you
Of course, isn't
we take
it?
stuff home. We do. We're human. Like we ruminate on stuff, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's just what we do. So actually, I take that into account. The whole thing really, and give a much more kind of
Mm.
personalised report with
Mm.
that, and much more personalised recommendations, not just for their work, but also if there's things that
Mm.
are going to help them in their home life. I'll look at that
Mm.
too. I
Mm.
want it to be a useful process for people.
Mm. And the
Um,
report, as it were, is to the person, for the person, isn't it? It's not to somebody else.
no, like the employer obviously gets a copy, but the
Right.
person gets that as well. So if they need to go to their GP and be like, actually, I've had this assessment and they've recommended like I need talking therapy or I need this
Yeah.
piece of equipment, and then they can get that referral to social services, they can get that referral to talking therapy.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah,
So it's
so
helpful from that point of view to, if they need it, to
yeah,
back up a referral or a request, I guess, for another form of support. Right.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Like I say, I try and make things as useful as possible.
Mm. Mm. Would you
Yeah.
say your background in the NHS then has actually given you a good grounding, a good feel for what you do now and how you want that to be different?
Definitely. I mean, God, I spent what, 13, 14 years, way too long in the NHS, and mostly in acute services,
Mm.
which I guess might be a bit pigeonholey to a degree, but I've also done like kind of forensic, so secure services.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I've done some work in special schools as well. So
Right.
I think the variety of like, what I can do and what I can bring is great. And it very much sets you up for, this isn't how I want to work. Like it's given me good skills for how I can work and also like
Mm.
the leadership, I guess, side of stuff.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Mm.
I suppose what's really difficult is that, at uni, like they teach you how to be an occupational therapist. They don't teach you how to run a business. And certainly when I was training, it was very much like everything was geared up, your placements and everything were geared up to you like being either in the NHS or in
Yeah.
social services.
Yeah.
Whereas now I do some lectures at Huddersfield Uni about sort of nature-based
Okay.
kind of occupational therapy and what other things there are out there. And the students now have like role emerging placements. So it won't be in a traditional hospital
Oh,
setting. Like they'll
interesting.
get at least one placement that's somewhere else where
Wow.
there isn't an occupational
Yeah.
therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've
Yeah,
got
because
to be
otherwise you think that's the main route, isn't it, for most people? I suppose there's obviously the job security and all of that, which is
yeah,
it's a big deal. But yeah, at least it exposes people to the idea that there are other ways of
yeah.
doing this work. Yeah. Oh, that's really
That's
good.
it. I think it's definitely had its purpose and definitely given me really good grounding for sure.
Mm.
And there's, what I always say to students is like, yes, if you want to do something outside the box, great, but go
Yeah.
and get some experience.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then, but
Mm.
also actually it's a big unlearning, I think.
Big
Um,
unlearning.
very much. I think
Okay.
that's the thing that I found is it's been a very big unlearning. You're very much sort of, institutionalized, the same as like your patients are to a degree of like, this is the
True.
way that you have to do things. I'm like, well, actually, you saying that, like, I can make the rules. As long as I
Mm.
meet
Mm.
HCPC guidelines and I work within
Mm.
like, our code of practice as OTs,
Right. True. True. Very
it's
true.
great.
Yeah.
I did a session sat in a tree with one of my clients the other day. Wouldn't get that in the NHS.
Well, that's a really important point, I guess, that idea of unlearning, because otherwise that becomes the only way to do things, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Mm,
But I think,
mm.
that background of having to write like really watertight
That's
reports and
also
notes and
important.
things is like,
Yeah,
I think that's what
yeah,
and sometimes that's really hard, like when you're trying to fit everything in, but actually like
yeah,
knowing that you
yeah,
give the best thing that
yeah.
you can give to somebody.
I think that's
Um,
also key, though, as well, isn't it? I think sometimes we often sort of, you know, decry, I guess, the all the traditional stuff because
yeah.
of all of the negative things that it has. But equally, like you say, that's very, very important to have that grounding too, isn't it?
Mm.
That solid base of work.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that. And I think the other thing that's been really useful to me, like certainly within a mental health setting, you get to kind of run a lot of groups.
Right,
And it's generally the best way of, I say you've got a ward of X many people that all need something. And
right,
fair enough, not everybody will come to a group, but if there's a group on offer, you can get more people to do that one piece of work.
right.
Rather than having to do, 15 individual
Yeah.
sessions, you can try and get people together. And I absolutely love running groups. Like it's my bread and butter. I love it.
Okay.
Um,
So
particularly
you do a lot of group work now as well as sort of one-to-ones out in nature?
Yeah, so I do some groups, not as many as I'd like at the moment, and that's the thing that I want to build on,
Okay.
for sure. So I've just started running from my site here, Common Ground, which is a group for people who are off sick, out of work, however they've got there, whether that's stress, burnout, whatever, or like struggling navigating life changes, and it's very much that kind of bridging space. So it's not
Okay.
it's not like fill in these worksheets and you'll be ready to go back to work. Like, no, we're very much taking that back to, again, like, let's just have a reset on
Mm,
your nervous system, gently
mm,
build your confidence, Gently build up that interaction with people. Because if you've not been at
Mm,
work for a long time, like I know myself, before I left the NHS, I'd never had a day off in my life. I had 3 months off sick. Hooray, pandemic. Hooray, NHS. But actually you get quite isolated.
mm,
Your world gets very
mm,
small. You don't see people, you don't do the things that you normally do because actually you normally fit everything in your routine around work. When you're
mm,
suddenly not there,
mm,
that's pretty hard.
mm,
So it's that bridging space to kind of build people's confidence, sort of gently,
mm,
in
mm,
a non-threatening, nature-based way.
mm. Well,
Yeah.
it's really key, I think, isn't it? So often, I mean, I see, clients who come in very similarly, but they
Mm.
feel very isolated because they believe or feel that they're the only one who's going through what they
Yeah.
are. And obviously it is, everybody's experience is unique. But
Yeah.
equally, there's a lot of common ground as well. And it's really important to know, well, I'm not the only one with all of this shit that's
Yeah.
happening to me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, group work, facilitating groups as well and holding that space, as we sort of say in this world, is really key. And I don't know what you think, but I know quite often I used to do a lot of work in sort of community development type roles. Um, and I think there seems to be like sort of an assumption that you know how to do all of this work, simply by working, because of what you do, you're working with people in different settings or whatever. But we don't always get trained to use groups and work with people in a group type setting that facilitate those facilitating skills. And I think that's perhaps one of those sort of missing links quite often in a lot of areas of work that we all do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the really unique thing about occupational therapy is that actually like that is the core part of what we do. Like when the
Right.
profession kind of started, I'm not going to put a year on that because I genuinely can't remember, but it's a good couple of 100 years ago. But it was very much again like people realizing that actually people that are like in institutions long term as they were back then were literally they were going stir crazy because they were bored. So it was like let's give these people something
Mm,
to do,
mm,
whether and sometimes I think back then there was a lot of this is where it comes from for those of you that know but there's a long-standing joke about us being basket weavers but that was one of
mm,
the things
mm,
give people something to do or like little jobs around the institution and actually like it's good for you. It's good for your physical health. It's good for your mental health because you're keeping active
mm,
and you're keeping your brain going. And we're very lucky that actually in our training, like we learn to do that. We learn a lot of the skills about facilitating, groups,
right.
managing the different dynamics,
Mm,
managing that space. Looking at the space you're going to use. It's not just like, and I find it really hard now if I have to go somewhere and run something in a room that I've not seen. I like to go and see it first, or like a
yeah,
space that I've not seen.
yeah,
I need to go and get a feel for that first and be like, okay, like I'm going to position myself here. Like I want people to be either I need to be by the door because there's a risk, or actually they need to be by the door in case they want to take a break.
yeah,
And
yeah. And
you
it's
can look
all
up.
that design that has to happen as well, isn't it? Behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's been really key as well in setting up the space here of knowing that actually how that can work and how people can move around in that
Mm,
space and it
mm.
be a safe space. Um,
Literally, and the space is a physical space as much as a mental space too, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
absolutely,
mm, mm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Your space, where is it?
So it's on my land in South Hingley, so just
Oh
outside of
yes, you said
Hemsworth.
Amsworth, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
got log cabin, got fire pit, fire circle.
Oh.
I've got a grant for the group that I've just started to run, Common Ground that I mentioned. So I'm sort of in
Mm,
the process of putting in some infrastructure. So there'll be some
cool.
raised beds, a little sensory area, that kind of thing.
Ah, excellent. Oh, that sounds really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
We'll have to Google your space. It'll be really interesting to see that.
Yeah.
Um, just a couple of last questions, really, because I know we could carry on talking for ages, but time really flies. But I know forest bathing is a thing, and that's
Mm.
become more common, I suppose, or familiar at least with different interests going on at the moment. Is How does your work connect with any of that, if at all?
Yeah, so I'm not trained in forest bathing, but some of the like activities and invitations that I'll use, there is definitely some overlap for sure.
Mm,
I guess I come from more of a sort of a mindfulness type background.
Right.
But again, like a lot of the things are fairly similar, and you are spending mindful time in nature. I'm sure my friend Claire, who is a forest bathing guide, will have lots of things to say about my interpretation of forest bathing, even though, I've been and I love it.
Mm,
But yeah, there's some similarities, but also
mm,
like differences, because I will kind of take that, I suppose, and think about how you can apply that, or how you can recreate that yourself. Like if you're having a moment, a wobble, like let's simplify this, that you can do this, yourself. And it doesn't have to be in nature. Like you could do the same exercise sat on the bus.
yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
kind of, I guess, look at that transferability of what else you can do. But I mean, there's definitely overlap. But I think there is in a lot
Mm,
of spaces. There's probably overlap somewhere between what I do and what you do.
yeah. Indeed. Indeed. Yes.
So
I think
yeah.
that's the beauty of the work, I guess, and coming around sort of full circle to where we started. And this is one of the reasons actually I sort of started this in conversation sort of series, really, because, well, one thing people are asking, what's the difference between things like, chiropractors and physios and osteopaths, and yeah, and there's lots of different particular differences, but lots of similarities, and the same with all of our different sort of forms of therapy as well, I guess. But essentially, we're working with people, helping them to get back on their feet and be able to get on with life again, isn't it? In whichever way we do that.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's what I love about this kind of work in a way, is that there isn't a right or wrong way. It's
Mm,
whatever works for that person at that
mm,
time. And,
mm,
I might have people that have been my clients that come back to me and with something else that they think, and actually I'll be like, do you know what? I'm not sure it's me you need right now. It might be
mm.
this.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, why don't you go and have a chat with so and so person that I know that
yeah,
does that, and see what you think? Or if you want to come
mm,
back and, we can have a couple of sessions and see where we go.
yeah.
But I'll be
And
quite upfront. If I don't think that, it's the right thing for that person at the time to
mm,
see me, I'll tell
mm,
them. And I'll try
mm,
and help them find the right person, the right
mm.
thing.
And again,
Um,
that's the beauty, isn't it? I think of the Breakfast Network
yeah.
because, yeah, we get to find out what we each do. We understand that a little bit better. And again, thank you for, coming on and explaining what you do, because I think that's really been helpful for me too. But absolutely, we aren't going to be the right solution, the right fit for everybody, are we? So it's good to know there are other people out there as well. But just before we conclude, Zoe, what are your sort of contact details? And I'll add all of this to the video link as a link at the end. But if you just want to sort of tell us what you how
Yeah.
how people could get in touch.
Absolutely. So my email is zoe@rootsot.co.uk. So that's roots like tree roots, and OT,
Okay.
occupational therapy. And you will find me on Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook is Roots OT, and Instagram I can't remember, but there's some underscores in it.
Right.
But I will put it all out for you. Let's have a little look.
Yeah.
Zoe_roots_OT.
Cool.
You'll
Great.
find me.
Excellent. Thank you, Zoe. So good to hear all about what you do. I hadn't sort of heard a lot of that in depth as we have today. So thanks for reminding me again. And yeah, great to have you. And no doubt I'll see you at another breakfast gathering some point soon. Thanks,
Brilliant.
Zoe. See you
Thank
soon.
you.